We're going to talk this morning a little bit more about Shalom, which has been the series that Steve's been preaching on so far. This morning we're going to talk about how we as the church enable other people to experience Shalom. Because Shalom, that idea of peace and wholeness, of a flourishing of all of creation, isn't something that God brought about just for his church. Shalom is for all people and all of creation. And when we feel and experience that shalom, when we have those glimpses in those moments in a broken world, it's a little bit like looking up and seeing a rainbow in a stormy sky. It's a beautiful thing. It's unexpected, it's out of character for the world, which is often dark and difficult, especially at the moment, and it's often much needed. Finding shalom in a broken world is often something that we just have a little glimpse of. It's not necessarily easy to live shalom or be shalom or to demonstrate shalom when there's still so much evidence of the brokenness of humanity and the brokenness of the world that we steward. But as followers of Jesus, we have hope on our side. And we have a knowledge that shalom is the correct state for this world. Jesus came to us with a mission to bring reconciliation with God through the forgiveness of our sins. Reconciliation which would close the separation between us and God, bringing unity and ushering in his perfect kingdom. As the church, with the privilege of knowing this truth, it's our mission to share this vision with the world, to make it a reality wherever we can, and to help others to look up and see that rainbow, even if the skies are stormy. Jesus helped us to understand his mission at the Last Supper. He took bread, he blessed it and he broke it, and he told us this was his perfect body, broken and torn apart in order that our relationship with him could become whole. And we might say that when Jesus talked about his body, he was referring not just to the bread, but to those disciples who were sitting at the table with him. This is my body. The disciples, commissioned by Jesus, to be his body, to take his mission to carry on in the world, to bring wholeness to that which tore him apart. And when we share communion later, we can consider that idea. The Jewish people use a phrase, tikkun olam, which means behaving in a way that brings shalom to the world. And I've seen it beautifully described as mending the tear in the fabric of society and creation. Mending the brokenness caused by our sin. Closing the gap that we've created between us and God. Fixing the damage to people and places. Recreating the perfect world that God created so that all of humanity could experience shalom. And each of us has a role to play in that mission. For some of us, it's a life's work. For others, it's a way of life. Because as the body of Christ and the recipients of grace, we have been commissioned by Jesus, and we have been equipped by the Holy Spirit, which Jesus sent to his disciples at Pentecost. So what does it look like to be the body of Christ, the church, and enable people to experience shalom for themselves? Well, I have to just explain a little bit about the church. The church has two functions. The first is about proclaiming the gospel. Oh, look, I've forgotten a slide. There we go. We have two functions. We proclaim the gospel, we share the means of grace for the forgiveness of sins, and we disciple one another so that we can have eternal life. Through the understanding that we have as a result of this ministry of word and sacrament, we have come to recognise that we've been set free from the power of sin and death. But we haven't only been set free from something, but also set free to go out into the world and to join in God's mission to help those who haven't heard to know God's shalom. And that is the other function of the church, bringing peace, sharing what we have, demonstrating generosity and kindness and peace and hope, so that people get to glimpse something of God's kingdom right here today. And these two functions don't have a priority. Each is vital for the other. There's no doubt of the need for us to enable people to experience shalom. We can't fail to see the world's brokenness in violent relationships, in the homeless person on the street, at the food bank, in war and tensions between nations, in the thousands of people who leave their home with nothing and take risky journeys across the sea in the hope of finding a better life, in the climate crisis and the damage that we've done to the environment. It's easy for us to see that something is badly amiss in God's beautiful creation. Every lonely person, every act of anger and shame and despair, every hungry person is evidence of this world's dis-ease. And so with our faith and our stories of how we have known peace in the presence of Jesus, we can make a difference. We can bring hope. In our reading from Paul to Ephesians this morning, we see how he summarises this idea and helps us to see how the two functions of the church prepare us and support us and enable us to work with God to bring his justice and his peace and his reconciliation to this broken world. Let's read from chapter 4 of Ephesians this morning, starting at verse 11. So Christ himself gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors and the teachers to equip his people for works of service, so that the body of Christ may be built up until we all reach unity in the faith and knowledge of God and the Son of God, becoming mature, attaining to the whole measure of the fullness of Christ. Then we will no longer be infants, tossed back and forth by the waves and blown here and there by every wind of teaching and by the cunning and craftiness of people in their deceitful scheming. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of him who is the head, that is Christ. From him the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love, as each part does its work. The church, with a body of skilled and gifted people, is able to bring shalom to the world in so many ways. We can work towards changing society at a structural level, helping to shape economic policy and political policy so that it's consistent with the shalom principles of justice and equality for all people groups. But not all of us can work in those fields. However, we can all be informed and put pressure on authorities. We all have a vote, and we can make sure that our voices are heard. We can work for and support institutions and organisations which serve a specific cause: education or healthcare, advocacy or care of creation. Perhaps some of us will train to be teachers or nurses, or maybe work for a charity like Tear Fund or Oxfam or Greenpeace. More locally, we can work for or volunteer at organisations like the Food Bank, the Community Fridge, Christians Against Poverty and other groups through churches in Bicester, and serve our local community where people really often need to just see a glimpse of what it means to have God and his kingdom. Or maybe we simply live principled lives for others to see and reflect on. Our influence as Christians can be significant when we live out kingdom values every day within our community. Orchard Baptist Church is involved with missionaries around the world who work every day to help to bring healing and safety and education and community to people. These missionaries bring Shalom to people. They show God's love. They bring peace. They provide advocacy, and they show a different way of living, kingdom living. Closer to home, we support refugees, demonstrating God's love for people who've known deep fear and despair in their home countries. We give debt counselling to people struggling to manage their money. We help to form new communities with kingdom values at their core. We help people to meet Jesus and experience his love for themselves. I'd really like to give you 2 examples of women who lived their whole lives according to their Christian faith and their conviction that they could bring positions of peace and that God's kingdom to the people that they saw suffering. Women who were determined to repair the brokenness of the world and bring shalom. The first is Dorothy Day. Day was a journalist in New York in the earlier part of the 20th century. And along with Peter Morin, she established the Catholic Workers' Movement and then the Catholic Worker newspaper to highlight the injustice being experienced by the poor and the homeless. She practiced non-violent action and civil disobedience to bring attention to the need for the most needy in society. At great personal cost, Day advocated for the most disadvantaged during the Depression of the 1930s. They changed the Catholic Worker Office so that it became a house of hospitality for the hungry and the sick and the homeless. And Day's principles were founded on Jesus' teachings at the Sermon on the Mount. She described the vision of the movement thus: "What we would like to do is change the world. Make it a little simpler for people to feed and clothe and shelter themselves as God intended them to do. And to a certain extent, by fighting for better conditions, by crying out unceasingly for the rights of workers, of the poor, of the destitute, the rights of the worthy and the unworthy poor. In other words, we can, to a certain extent, change the world. We can work for the oasis, for the little cell of joy and peace in a harried world. We can throw our pebble into the pond and be confident that its ever-widening circle will reach around the world. We repeat, there is nothing that we can do but love. And, dear God, please enlarge our hearts to love one another, to love our neighbour and to love our enemy as our friend." Day travelled to India to meet Mother Teresa once, and she's another person that I'd like to mention as an example of how the church can help other people to experience shalom. Mother Teresa lived a life of humble service, which witnessed to the world the love and compassion of Jesus. She looked for the presence of Jesus in the poor and the sick and the forgotten people on the streets of Calcutta. She formed the missionaries of charity who cared for those children of God that nobody else was prepared to see or serve. She organised centres around the world to care for the sick and the homeless and the discarded ones. In addition, she opened a home for the dying people of Calcutta where she said, "Those who had lived like animals in the gutter were enabled to die like angels, knowing that they were truly valued and loved as precious children of God." Describing the vision for the missionaries of charity, she said, "We have the specific task of giving material and spiritual help to the poorest of the poor, not only the ones in the slums, but those who live in any corner of the world as well. To do this, we make ourselves live the love of God in prayer and in our work, through a life characterised by the simplicity and humility of the gospel. We do this by loving Jesus in the bread of the Eucharist and loving and serving him under the painful guise of the poorest of the poor, whether their poverty is material poverty or a spiritual one. We do this by recognising them and giving back to them the image and likeness of God. These women are inspiring, and I hope that the Church continues to equip and guide people to give their lives to the task of helping people to experience Shalom. But I do also want to point out that we don't all have to be Mother Teresa. We don't all have her talents. Much of what I've talked about this morning is about how to use the gifts that we've been given to do things, about acting, about using our skills to change the world. But if we're only a church of doers, then we leave no room for the beers, the people who want to just be. Some of us are beers by nature, quiet, reflective, tuned into God's Spirit in gentleness and humility, more likely to reflect the shalom of God through friendship or art or hospitality and thoughtfulness. For every person who feels inadequate because they're not doers, or who don't feel able to do at a given time, for whatever reason, it's important to recognise that living a Christ-centred life is a guaranteed way to reflect God's Spirit to others. Sometimes we just need to save ourselves, or just one other person, to enable them to experience Shalom. It's not about how many people we show Shalom to. It's about whether we experience it ourselves and as a church, and how we simply go about our business, showing others what it's like to experience moments of God's kingdom where we can. So be assured that each of us is equipped to help others to experience Shalom, at least in some points of our lives. As the body of Christ, we have a role, a calling, a commissioning and an equipping to serve God and God's people in helping to bring a light into the darkness and love into a broken world. Let's take a moment in prayer to think about Shalom, what it means to us, and how we can help others to experience. And then we'll respond by sharing communion together. Loving Father, through the saving life and death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, we have seen the love that you have for us, the plan that you have for our wholeness and flourishing in you. Help us to take the light of your love and shine it into the dark places of the world. Equip us for whatever part you want us to play in your mission, and Lord, may all of your people be blessed with a knowledge and vision of your Shalom kingdom, so that they too may have the hope of life with you in eternity. Amen.